What's going on, you guys? Today we're going to be learning the song To Be With You by Mr. Big. This is a classic song and its reputation definitely precedes itself, but I think it's a beautiful song and it's definitely worth learning how to play. With that said, I'm about to teach it to you, so let's get into it. You are watching Logan's Lessons. Starting with the verse, we are starting on a C sharp minor chord. You will place your first finger on the 4th fret of your A string. Your ring finger will be on the 6th fret of your D string, your pinky on the 6th fret of your G, and your middle on the 5th fret of your B string. This is a C sharp minor chord. The second chord we have is an E major. You're going to place your middle finger on the 2nd fret of your A string. Your third finger will be on the 2nd fret of your D string, and your first finger on the 1st fret of the G. You'll play all these strings, and that is an E major chord. The third chord we have is an A sus2 chord. You will place your middle finger on the 2nd fret of your D string, and right below it, your third finger on the 2nd fret of your G string. You'll play your 5th string downwards. And then finally back to the E major. That chord progression happens twice before we get into the pre-chorus, but before we get there, let's discuss the strumming pattern. We start with the down, down on the C sharp minor, and then down to the E major chord. We play the low E string twice, and then you strum the rest of the chord, like this. So far. Then the A sus2 is equivalent to the C sharp minor, that being 2 down strums. And then you play the E major chord the same way as previously. So the whole verse chord progression will sound like this. Do that with me. Very good. Then we get into the pre-chorus. The pre-chorus starts on the A sus2. Again, this is after playing the verse chord progression through twice. You go A sus2 again, then E, like you did in the verse. A sus2, E. Then we go to a D major chord, which will be played with your index finger on the 2nd fret of your G string, your third finger on the 3rd fret of your B string, and your middle finger on the 2nd fret of your high E string. That is a D major chord. You play from the D string downwards. Okay, so you play the D major chord down 8 times. And then finally, you have one last chord, which is a B major chord. You will place your first finger on the 2nd fret of your A string, and then bar with your third finger, your ring finger, across the 4th fret of your D, G, and B strings. The B major chord should end up sounding like this. Make sure you practice that one. That's a difficult chord. So you're going to play the B major chord down 8 times. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So the whole pre-chorus is A sus2 twice, then E, A sus2 down twice, and then the E. Down 8 times, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. On the D to the B, which is also down 8 times. So if I play that. That leads you into the chorus. The chorus is one of my favorite choruses of all time. It's just so cool. So you start with that E major chord. You strum that down once. Then what you're going to do is you're going to lift your middle finger up off of the A string and instead place it on the 2nd fret of your low E string. Right here, we're going to do this little walk-up thing from that 2nd fret to the 4th, where you're going to use your pinky finger, the 4th fret of your low E string. I'll play that for you. Then what we do is we hit the E major one more time. And then to an A major. The A major will be played by putting your first finger on the 2nd fret of your D string, your middle finger on the 2nd fret of your G string, and your 3rd finger on the 2nd fret of your B. Now, alternatively, you could also play an A major chord by barring with your first finger across the 2nd fret of those 3 strings, the D, the G, and the B. This is my preferred method of how to play the A chord. So far we have an E major, 2nd fret of your low E, 4th fret of your low E, one more of your full E major chord, and then the A major chord, which will be played downwards twice. Then we hit a B major chord twice, which we already learned. And then we're back to our E major chord, which will be played as the root, root, down, like we had in the verse. So far, so that happens 4 times in the chorus. Let's do that together. That leads us into verse 2, which is identical to the first verse, another pre-chorus, which is identical to the first one as well, and then a chorus. After chorus 2, we drop into a bridge section. The bridge section starts on an A sus2 chord. You play that downwards once, and then we go on to the C sharp minor chord, which is the first chord of this song. You play that downwards loudly once, but then softly we play downwards 3 more times. Like that. So far. And then finally a G chord. To play a G chord, we will place our middle finger on the 3rd fret of our low E string, our first finger on the 2nd fret of your A string, your 3rd finger will be on the 3rd fret of your B string, and your pinky on the 3rd fret of your high E string. That is a G chord. This one you'll play down 8 times. So if I play the whole bridge, play along with me. That brings us into the solo, which is my favorite part of the song and actually one of the coolest, in my opinion, acoustic guitar solos in recent history. You're starting with your middle finger on the 2nd fret of your D string, and your first finger on the 1st fret of your G string. You play those together, and then we move up so that our 3rd finger will be placed on the 4th fret of your D string, and your first finger on the 2nd fret of your G. So, you're going to take that and you're just going to slide it up 2 frets, like that, so that your 3rd finger is on the 6th fret of your D string, and your first finger is on the 4th fret of your G string. It should sound like this so far. Okay, so right here, we're going to place our middle finger on the 5th fret of your B string. You're going to play that upwards, so. Then what we do is we take our pinky and place it on the 7th fret of our D string, and our 3rd finger on the 6th fret of our G. Like that, so far. And then we are going to place our first finger on the 4th fret of our G string and leave our pinky finger on the 7th fret of your D string. Like that. A little bit of a dissonant sound there, but that is what we want. Okay, do that with me. One more time. Right here, we are going to bar the 4th fret of our D and G strings with our index finger. You're going to play that. And then what we're going to do is we're going to hammer on twice onto the 6th fret of our D string with our 3rd finger. Like that. So we have. Do that with me. One more time. In context. So that could be considered the first of 4 different riffs, if you will. Do that with me. One more time. The second time through is quite similar. It just has a different ending. So you start with the same. All of that's the same. Do that with me. Then right here is where it changes. Instead of going down so that your index finger's on the 4th fret, what we're going to do is we're going to place our middle finger on the 5th fret of our B string and our 1st finger on the 4th fret of our high E. Like that. You play those two together. So far. Very good. Do that with me. Then what we do is a hammer on and pull off from the 2nd fret to the 4th fret of our high E string. So you hammer it on, pull it off. Then you pull off your 2nd fret too. Then what we do is we hit the B string open, then the high E string and the B string together. So, like that. Do that with me. One more time. A little bit faster now. One more time. And even just a little bit faster. Then right there, what we do is we hit the low E string. So that second time through the riff will sound like this. Do that with me. One last time. Very, very good. So now allow me to play the 1st and the 2nd phrases together for you. Okay, very good. Now the 3rd phrase is quite nearly identical to the 1st phrase. It's just at the end we have another variation. So you have all of that's the same. You go as far to put your 1st finger on the 4th fret of your G string and have your pinky there on the 7th fret. But then we have our chord. The first chord we have is our 3rd finger on the 9th fret of our D string. Our middle finger on the 8th fret of our G, and our 1st finger on the 7th fret of our B string. Like stair steps. So that's the first chord. Then we're going to slide it up so that our 3rd finger is on the 11th fret of your D string, and then we're going to bar with our index finger the 9th fret of our G and B strings. You're going to play that one downwards twice. So the 3rd time through, like the 3rd phrase of this solo is like this. Do that with me. One last time. And in context. And this 4th one's where it caps it off, and it's really cool. It's like the climax of the solo, if you will. So you slide up to the 11th fret of your A string, then you play the 9th fret of your D string, the 11th of your D, the 9th fret of your G. So slide up to the 11th of your A, 9th fret of your D, 11th fret of your D, 9th fret of your G. You're just walking up a minor pentatonic scale here. But right here it changes a little bit. You play the 12th fret of your B string, back to the 9th fret of your G, then the 10th fret of your B string. Do that with me. One more time. Okay, so then right there what we do is we hit the 9th fret of our B string, the 10th fret of our B, and the 12th fret of our B. We're just walking up the scale. So. Then what we do here is we're just going to slide up to the 9th fret of our G string, give it a little vibrato, and then the 11th fret of our D. That is, again, 9, 10, 12 on our B, slide up to the 9th fret and give it a little vibrato on the G string, and then the 11th fret of our D. So that's, so far, what we have is... Do that with me. A little bit faster now. Then right here we go back to something that's reminiscent of the second time through the solo with our middle finger on the 5th fret of our B string and our first finger on the 4th fret of our high E. You play those two together. And then what we do is we have the 2nd fret hammering onto the 4th fret, pulling back off to the 2nd fret, and then the open E, and then the B string. So, do that with me. A little bit faster now. One last time. And then the last two notes that we have here are a harmonic on the 12th fret of your high E, like that. So you just hover your third finger over the 12th fret, like the bar here, the actual fret of your 12th. And you don't push down, you just touch it with your finger and then you pick that string. It gives you that sound. Then what we're going to do, while being careful not to touch the high E string, is we're going to hit the 7th fret of our B string, and we're going to bend it up a step. So we have like that. The whole last line being... Do that with me. Like so. One last time. Very, very good. Now I'm going to play the entire solo for you. Feel free to play along. Do that with me. And then we have a normal pre-chorus. Following the normal pre-chorus, we have a special chorus, which is special because we change keys. I just find that really exciting. So you're starting on a G major chord. You strum that one downwards, then you're going to take your index and middle fingers off of the frets and play an open A string downwards. Then the 2nd fret of your A string with your index finger, and then you play a G chord again. So far. Third chord we have is a C add 9 chord, which, if you're unfamiliar, your third and your pinky finger stay in the same place as a G major chord, but your middle finger will be on the 3rd fret of your A string, and your first finger will be on the 2nd fret of your D string. You play that chord twice. So you have... Then we have a D major chord, which we already went over. Then you play the G major chord like we did the E earlier in the verse and stuff. So if I play that whole thing for you. Now that happens twice, and then the third time it changes just slightly. At the end, rather than playing the G 3 times, you play an E minor chord 3 times, which is like the E major that we learned earlier, just without your first finger. So that third time through is... And then the fourth time is the same as the first two. So allow me to demonstrate the entire key change chorus for you. Play that with me. Okay, and then the key changes again for the final chorus, but it's just the original key. You play it in E major. And that is how you play the song To Be With You by Mr. Big. If you have a song request, please comment it. If you wish to be notified of future videos, hit the bell. I sincerely hope that you are well. Please do me a favor and hit that like button blue. I'd really appreciate it if you subscribe too. I hope this video has been a blessing. You've been watching Logan's Lessons.